iconic. It's the new band, and what's really cool about this is there's so much familiarity about with the members of this band. You guys all know each other really well. You and Michael go way back. You've worked on his projects together. Obviously, you and Tommy with Whitesnake. I mean, how much does that help when you're friends with each other, you know each other? I mean, it's got to help the creativity so much.
Yeah, I mean, it started out being presented from Frontiers as working with Nathan, on my end at least, and
Right.
Nathan and I have co-written as well for a few of the tracks that have made the Inglorious records. So he's been a friend. He worked in Trans-Siberian Orchestra with me there for a couple years. So yeah, he was already a friend, and Michael and I had been, like you said, collaborating on his solo stuff, and we're wanting to do a project. And so I think they thought, hey, let's kill two birds with one stone here. Let's get Michael and Joel together with Nathan, and
Right.
yeah, like you said, it made sense. And then it was sort of later that they added Tommy on drums, which was a surprise, total surprise. I didn't see that one coming.
Right.
But having, my bandmate with me in there is fun. And Marco and I know each other from the Dead Daisies and Whitesnake
Yeah.
touring together when Marco was with the Daisies. So yeah, it felt like getting together for the video shoot wasn't like meeting people. Like, hi, I'm Joel. It was like, dude, great to see
Right.
you. So yeah, it felt like we got a good group of guys that know each other and get along, and yeah. So the chemistry felt like I kind of knew what it was going to be already going in.
Right. And Matt, how far in advance? Like, obviously, the group just got announced recently, made official and out into the public. The video's out, but how far back does this go though? Like, how far in advance was this put together before it really became like the public's knowledge of it?
It's been a while. I'm trying to think. It takes a while to get everything done, mixed, and then there's turnaround time for the label to get physical product manufactured and all that stuff, and to
Yeah.
get all the art design done. And so man, I couldn't tell you exactly. I would need to go back into my emails to see like, when did this all begin? But it's been a minute for sure.
Right.
So yeah, longer than people realize sometimes. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I did the guitar tracks. I want to say like over the summer of 2021 or something
Oh
like
wow.
that. So
Okay.
yeah, it's like nine
Okay.
months later you go, okay, yeah, it's seeing the light of day now. Here it comes. So
Well,
glad to get it out there.
you're like, finally, like we can finally talk.
It's always how
Michael's.
I feel, man. You finish an
Yeah.
album, it's like in you're so in it when you're working on an album,
Yeah.
and then it's funny because you kind of have to enter this period where you got to kind of wipe it out of your mind and just be like, hey,
Right.
yeah, that happened. It'll come out someday, but you kind of stop thinking about it, and then as it gets closer, it's like, oh, here we go. I do the promo,
Right.
and now it's going to be out there, so that's
Well,
cool.
the one thing that I think is really interesting is obviously like you and Michael have worked together on his solo music, but he was the front man with that stuff. It was his baby, his project. You guys are co-guitarists on this record, and he's not the lead singer of this. Was the dynamic any different working with him as just a co-guitarist on a band that you guys are in together and somebody else is fronting, or was it kind of the same thing? Was it kind of more fun to just kind of shred with him and just throw it down?
Well, he co-produced it, so I think
Okay,
just that
that
kind of
makes sense.
puts his stamp on it too a
Right.
lot. So in terms of
Okay.
his involvement, and he does, we play a lot of harmony leads on the album together, and we even do a couple where we're trading off and going
Hmm.
back and forth, like a lot of the double guitar bands like Maiden and Scorpions and
Yeah.
etc. And he and Nathan even trade lead vocals on a couple of the
Oh,
songs.
okay.
So it's not without his stamp in regards to his lead vocals. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely different than I pictured doing the project with him. Michael and I were
Right.
always like, let's do a project, let's do a project. And eventually, when it did happen, I was like, well, I didn't necessarily picture it being like this, but that's how life is. Sometimes it's not exactly like you pictured it happening, but it might end up being cooler even. So
Right. obviously I've heard the one song, seen the one video, Nowhere to Run. That is now officially out. Video went up recently, and I feel like it's just the perfect song to lead off with. But what was shooting that music video like? How long ago was that shot? Was that last year, or was that meant to come out right now? Was it meant to come out back
It's
then? Or
fairly recent. I mean,
okay,
I feel like maybe we went to go shoot the videos maybe 2 months ago or something like
okay,
that. So fairly recent. We went to LA for a couple days and did that, and one more that's coming out. So yeah, getting together, obviously taking some promo pictures and all that stuff. And like I said, that felt very much like just hanging out with friends, which was great. Would have been weirder showing up not knowing anybody in the project or band and being like, but
right,
yeah, that's a little more recent.
okay. Gotcha. And then the record's set to come out just under 2 months from now, middle of June, which I can't think of a better birthday present for me. That's like right after my birthday, so I'm freaking pumped for that record, man. But it's a tough question to answer. But what's the record like compared to Nowhere to Run? Is that pretty indicative of what the rest of the record sounds like, or is it kind of just all sorts of different stuff?
Yeah, it's just, commercial or melodic hard rock.
Okay,
Very much a throwback to the 80s in terms of where we're coming from, and obviously with the production style of 2022. So,
sure.
very collaborative in nature. Michael asked me to write guitar riffs along the lines of that style that were unarranged. So I would write, in my mind, what would be like here would maybe an intro riff, maybe a verse riff, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, potentially, and but send it to him as like different segments and say, here's song idea number one, and Michael would arrange it the way you'd hear it as a song, and maybe add or subtract as he saw necessary. If he wanted to add a riff of his own, or if he wanted to, take one away that was in there that maybe he was like, I'm not hearing where that would fit. So that was cool. So he really arranged the songs. It was like I took the guitar riffs, Michael arranged them, and then Alessandro and Nathan wrote the lyrics and the vocal melodies. So it was collaborative. It really wasn't like one guy saying, well, here's how everything's going to go. Everybody just record it.
Sure. I can't think of a better year for this really to be a thing, an album coming out than 2022, where finally everything from the last few years are finally behind us. Where on like I feel like we're on the cusp of something really special when it comes to music, especially hard rock, heavy metal, just rock and roll, because things are just going to start booming, I think, this year. Because people are ready to just enjoy music. Have you talked about what 2022 and 2023 might look like for Iconic? Because I know Mike's got Striper stuff coming up. You and Tommy have White Snake going on right now as well. What does this year look like for Iconic?
It's really hard to say. I mean, we're very eager to get the album out there, obviously, but yeah, as you mentioned, I mean, we just wrapped rehearsals here in LA for the farewell tour for Whitesnake,
Mm-hmm.
which really
Yeah.
should, go into 2023 if the world
Oh
holds
yeah.
itself together and
Yeah.
everything
Yeah. We'll
everything
see.
goes according to plan. But I mean, we're starting off here very soon. We're flying to Ireland and doing Ireland and the UK with Foreigner and the band Europe. And then
Yes.
we're
Oh
touring
God.
Europe with Europe, and I think even a show with Kiss, and maybe a show or two, maybe with Steel Panther. I'm not quite sure off the top of my
Nice.
head. And then there's going to be some other dates coming that haven't been quite
Yeah.
announced yet. But obviously, we're not going to do a farewell tour without touring the U.S.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah.
everybody can rest assured that we're going to be uh,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
coming as close to your area as humanly possible for this. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's that, and of course I have Trans Siberian Orchestra in November, December. So
Mhm.
it's really tough to see exactly what we're gonna do. But my thing is always if I have free time, I like to be able to put the work in and do what I can to support anything I'm a part of. So when people ask me if I'd be up for live days with this, the answer is definitely yes. I mean, it just
Right. The logistics. How
yeah,
do
the
you do it?
logistics of it
Yeah.
exactly. But I'm totally up for it, man. If we can make it work, let's do it.
Can you see a situation where maybe Iconic goes out with like Striper or other bands that you guys have put
Well, I mean,
together and
that would be double duty for somebody. I mean, that
that's a
would
lot.
be,
It's a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you'd have to ask Michael on that one. I definitely don't think it would happen with Whitesnake. I don't think that
No.
that would be anything that would fit. You're not going to have Tommy play two sets on drums and myself play two sets on guitar and
Good
get
God.
a,
Yeah.
get out and open for ourselves would be a little strange. But
Sure.
you never know. I mean, there's a lot of great projects and bands that Frontiers is putting together, and maybe we can make something work with one of them or something that I don't know, something that would make sense where we could get it done and not be out on the road staying in Motel Sixes making no money or something. I don't know.
Right. And one thing that fans don't always realize is not every band has to tour. Not every band has to go on this giant North American tour. Some bands are meant to just, we did this record to do a record. Here it is, and we're gonna do more music down the road. I mean, there's not every band has to go on the road and do live shows and do a tour because it's a completely different animal. And like you said, double duty is I have trouble doing two shows back to back. I can't imagine doing two shows in one night, let alone over and over and over and over again, you know?
Well, the music business has changed. I mean, this is
Yeah.
this is nothing new. It's been for years. I know so few musicians that are just a part of one band and just say, well,
Mhm.
that's the band I'm in, and you need to find something that works 12 months a year or provides you enough income to say, well, that's all I need to do for my entire year. So most
Sure.
people I know want to stay busy and be a part of a couple things, as most bands, even this year with Whitesnake, I think we'll probably be on the road for 5, 6 months of this year. But still, people need to realize that's only half of the year, and the other half of
Mhm.
the year, people don't necessarily want to just hang out and
Yeah.
do nothing. We're musicians, you like to stay productive and work at what you do. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's things like this are definitely a product of the music business being structured the way it is these days. But I
Mhm.
personally, I'm into it. I love being able to do other things, and
Yeah.
I think it makes you a better musician. And David is always supportive as long as I'm available for Whitesnake. So
Right.
I think it just doesn't really have any negatives as far that I can see on my end.
Well, and especially coming out of everything the last few years, with not being able, you guys not being able to play shows for so long. I mean, nobody wants to sit around for another 4, 5, 6 months, half of the year, like you did for the last 2 years. You guys are ready to get out there. You guys want to do the shows. Fans want to see them. You guys are ready. But with Iconic, with this record, Second Skin coming out, what does this mean for you personally, having your stamp on it, your work on it, with this finally being out? What does this band and this record mean for you?
Well, I just think it's another opportunity for me to get out there and, in many ways, I mean, I still feel like I'm building a name for myself, I mean, I was never a part of the 80s where I sold millions of albums with one band.
Sure.
So I think through hard work and me being a part, obviously playing with bands that are recognizable like
Hmm.
Whitesnake and Trans-Siberian Orchestra, um, but also doing things like this kind of gets me in the conversation at least as somebody who's part of that scene. Um,
Yeah.
that's not easy, because most of the people that I get mentioned alongside have sold millions of albums years ago. So
Right. Yeah.
for me to have that opportunity, that just requires a lot of hard work to become part of the conversation.
I think a lot of fans with all, you've been around for a while now and you've been a part of some great bands. I mean, I think a lot of fans forget that, yeah, you weren't part of all of that back then. You came along. A lot of fans don't realize that, which I think is a testament to you with everything that you've done, that fans automatically consider you right up there. I mean, every list you see
No,
or
I know
every,
it's
it's you're up there.
yeah.
So
I always feel very flattered. I think
yeah.
that that's something that I didn't have the opportunity to do. I kind of missed that window. I was in high
Right.
school in the '80s, really. So
Right.
Um, when I went out to GIT and guitar school, that's kind of right when Nirvana hit and grunge took over, and so that set me off on a strange path of doing a million gigs to, make a living with my guitar, which is great, and no
Hmm.
complaints. It helped me become a very well-rounded musician over the years. But yeah, I really, when things clicked for me and most people in our scene began to at least hear of me, or I was able to get on their radar, was, not until maybe about 2008, even, only about 14 years ago, joining Night Ranger, kind of, and spending 7 years with those guys kind of made, people at least kind of aware of me. So for me, yeah, when I get included in that list of, the 80s guitar players and stuff, for me, that's always a huge compliment because these guys were like my heroes and my guitar,
Yeah.
my idols, like when I was growing up. So for me, when I get included in that conversation, it's always a cool thing.
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned one thing earlier I wanted to ask you about is you mentioned you got some shows coming up with Steel Panther. That they're a very polarizing band. A lot of people love them. A lot of people can't stand it. What are your thoughts on Steel Panther, man? I mean, because I love the band, but a lot of bands from the '80s, not necessarily the biggest fans sometimes. How do you feel about a band like Steel Panther?
I liked their set when I watched it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I really like Russ a lot. Satchel, everybody
Yeah.
knows him as, but Russ was a guitar teacher when I went to GIT, and I used to go hang in his open consolings and jam with him.
Oh, wow.
So I'm really happy for him that he's got
Yeah.
something that's working well. He's a great guitar player. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
really, really great player. All
Yeah.
the comedy and laughs aside in Steel Panther, he rips. He's a great,
Amazing musicians.
yeah, he's a
Yeah.
great player. So,
Yeah.
I'm always happy when I see things work out for somebody like that who's
Yeah.
a great player and a great musician. And
Yeah.
so, I like I said, I enjoyed their set when I watched it.
Yeah.
I'm not a big follower of any band, to be honest with
Right.
you. Where I'm like, hey, let me follow every single thing they're doing, or
Yeah.
I'm just not that guy. I'm always kind of working on music myself.
Hmm.
But yeah, I like what they do.
It's the same thing for me, man. I'm around you're around music so much, and you're constantly seeing newer bands when you're out on the road, especially festivals. Like if I get enough new music as it is, like if I'm not going to go out and look for, it's right there, you know. So
I just always seemingly have a list of musical tasks on my end that I do during
yes,
the day, and so by
yeah,
the time I get done spending 6, 8 hours on
yeah,
creating the music during a day or teaching it a lot these days, I've
time to
been doing a
breathe.
lot more of that. That I get to the end of the day and I'm like, okay, listening?
Enough
No, no,
music.
no, no, no. Like I'm gonna
Yep.
watch a movie or watch a game on TV or something that
Yeah.
takes my mind off of music.
Yeah. And finally, TSO, man, no live audiences last few years. How much bigger is this TSO show going to be that you guys are looking at for later this year? Because
No,
it's
we did
always
it.
huge, man. It's
We
always
did the tour at the end of 2021.
did you?
Yeah.
I thought for some reason I thought I saw it get
Are you in Green
promoted.
Bay? I see you got the Packers sign behind you.
I'm in Indianapolis. Yeah.
Oh, in Indianapolis. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah. So,
I'm in Indy.
yeah,
Yeah.
we were able to tour. It was like that little window between
Oh,
Delta and right
okay.
at the very end, Omicron was like, was coming in, and so we
Oh,
got we
gotcha.
got through that by the skin of our teeth. It was like right at the
Gotcha.
end of that. It
Okay.
was. But yeah, we were able to get it done, and that was great to be able to, get that tradition back on the road, and love being a part of TSO. I've been there
Yeah.
12 years now already, which is kind of
Wow.
amazing, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I love being a part of that. That's a amazing, massive army of talent to be like
Yeah.
a small part of. So
Yeah.
it's cool for me to be able to get out there, and I love those guys in the band now. I mean, we've been doing that. I spent my holidays with them, the last 11, 12 years or something. So,
Mhm.
they're my best friends. I love
Yeah.
hanging with those guys and getting out and playing music, and that's a great opportunity for any guitarist to get out on that tour.
And I cannot wait to hear the rest of this record because what I've heard so far, I was listening to Nowhere to Run today on the interstate and I looked down, I was going 95 way too fast. So love the love the record, love the song, love the video, man. And I got to stop listening to it while I'm on the interstate because I'm going to get in some trouble apparently. So it's so good. I cannot wait to hear the rest of this, the rest of the music and the rest of the album, man, because you guys nailed what I've heard so far, man. Again, thanks for taking time today. I really appreciate it.